The regret of moving into a nursing home, a lesson for those considering it. At 82, I have lived a long and eventful life, but one decision still weighs heavily on me: moving into a nursing home. At the time, I believed it was the right choice. My family reassured me that I would have comfort, security, and access to care whenever I needed it. I trusted their words, thinking that this transition would make life easier. However, the reality was far different from what I had imagined. Before entering the nursing home, I had independence. I decided when to wake up, what to eat, and how to spend my day. I could take a morning walk around my neighborhood, cook my favorite meals, and enjoy peaceful evenings in my favorite chair. But once I moved in, my routine was no longer my own. Meals were served at fixed times even if I wasn't hungry. My daily activities were scheduled by others. Even something as simple as taking a walk outside required permission and assistance. The hardest part? Realizing how difficult it is to regain independence once you give it up. I adjusted because I had no choice, but with each passing day, I felt more like a resident in a system rather than an individual with a life of my own. If you're considering a nursing home, think carefully. Are you ready to give up the small freedoms that make life truly yours? Once they are gone, you may find yourself missing them more than you ever expected. Before making such a life-changing decision, explore every option to remain in your home for as long as possible, because the comfort of familiarity and independence is something you can't put a price on. The loss of autonomy, a hidden cost of moving into a nursing home. One of the hardest lessons I've learned since moving into a nursing home is how quickly I lost control over my own life. Before, I had the freedom to shape my days however I pleased. I could wake up when I wanted, eat when I felt hungry, and choose how to spend my time. If I wanted to take an afternoon stroll or enjoy a quiet morning with my coffee and newspaper, I could do so without asking permission. But the moment I stepped into a nursing home, that freedom disappeared. Everything here runs on a strict schedule. Breakfast at 7:30 a.m., lights out at 9 p.m., activity hours pre-planned with little room for personal choice. Even small decisions like what to wear or what to eat often feel more like privileges than personal choices. If you don't like the meal of the day, too bad. That's what's being served. If you want to take a walk, you may have to wait until a staff member is available to assist you. At first, I tried to push back, but eventually I adapted because I had no other option. The problem is, adaptation comes at a cost. Over time, I stopped questioning the rules. I stopped expecting to make my own decisions. I learned to fit into the system, but in doing so, I lost a part of myself. The hardest part about losing autonomy is realizing how much it defines who you are. When you no longer have control over your own life, you start to feel like just another resident in a facility rather than an individual with personal choices and a sense of self. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to live by someone else's schedule? Because once your freedom is gone, getting it back is nearly impossible. The pain of feeling forgotten, a reality of nursing homes. When I first moved into a nursing home, my family reassured me that I would never feel alone. They promised to visit often, to check in regularly, and to make sure I still felt connected to them. In the beginning, they did. My daughter came every week, my grandchildren visited on weekends, and I felt hopeful that this new chapter of my life wouldn't be as isolating as I had feared. But as the months passed, those visits became less frequent. My daughter started calling instead of coming in person, my grandchildren got busy with school and work, and soon, weeks went by without a single visit. At first, I made excuses for them. Life is busy, schedules are full, and I didn't want to be a burden. But then holidays came and went, and the loneliness became harder to ignore. Thanksgiving was always a big family gathering at my house, filled with laughter, stories, and the smell of a home-cooked meal. But last year I spent it alone, eating a meal that was handed to me on a tray in a common room filled with other residents who were also waiting for visitors who never arrived. It's not that my family stopped loving me. I know they care. But when you're no longer part of their daily lives, it's easy to slip into the background. They assume you're fine, that you've adjusted, that you don't need as much attention. But the truth is, the longer you stay in a nursing home, the more invisible you feel. You become someone they visit when it's convenient, rather than someone who is actively involved in their lives. I remember sitting in my room one evening, holding my phone, debating whether to call my son. I didn't want to sound desperate. I didn't want to remind him that I was here, waiting for a visit that might never come. So I put the phone down. That's when it hit me. This was my life now, watching the days pass, hoping someone would remember me. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because no matter how much your family loves you, once you're out of sight, it's far too easy to become out of mind. Losing the sense of purpose. The silent struggle in nursing homes. Before I moved into a nursing home, my days had structure, routine, and purpose. I woke up early, brewed my own coffee, and watered the plants on my porch. I enjoyed small daily tasks, folding laundry, cooking meals, tidying up my home. These weren't just chores, they were part of what made life feel meaningful. Even something as simple as deciding what to cook for dinner gave me a sense of control over my own life. But when I entered the nursing home, all of that changed. At first, I told myself it would be nice to finally relax. No more cooking, no more cleaning, no more responsibilities. Meals were brought to me, my bed was made for me, and the staff took care of everything. It sounded like a dream. But after a few weeks, I started to feel something I hadn't expected. Useless. There was no reason to get up early anymore. The plants I once cared for were gone, replaced by sterile walls and artificial decorations. The meals were prepared according to a fixed schedule with no input from me. I no longer had to think about grocery shopping, meal planning, or preparing a dish for family gatherings, because those gatherings rarely happened anymore. I saw this same feeling reflected in other residents. There was George, an 84-year-old former carpenter who once spent his days building and fixing things. Back home, he was always busy in his garage, making small repairs or working on projects for his grandchildren. But here, there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as he slowly withdrew, his once strong hands now idle in his lap. "I just don't feel like myself anymore," he told me one day. And I knew exactly what he meant. When you have nothing left to take care of, no responsibility, no reason to be needed, life begins to lose its meaning. The days stretch on, empty and unfulfilling, as you sit and wait for something, anything, to break the monotony. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you lose that, it's hard to find it again. The loss of privacy and dignity in a nursing home. One of the hardest adjustments I had to make after moving into a nursing home was the loss of privacy. At home, I had my own space. I could close my bedroom door whenever I wanted, sit in silence, and go about my daily routine without interruption. But in a nursing home, privacy is a luxury that disappears the moment you arrive. From the very first day, I felt like I was under constant supervision. Staff members came in and out of my room throughout the day, sometimes knocking, sometimes not waiting for a response. Scheduled room checks meant that even when I was resting, I never felt completely alone. The simple act of getting dressed or using the restroom, things I had done independently my entire life, now required assistance. I knew the caregivers were just doing their jobs, but it didn't change how it made me feel. Like I was no longer in control of my own body. I had to ask permission for things I once took for granted, like taking a shower or even deciding when to go to bed. If I wanted to use the restroom but a caregiver was busy with someone else, I had no choice but to wait, sometimes longer than I'd like. Sharing a room only made things harder. I was lucky to have a quiet and kind roommate, but not everyone had that experience. Some residents had roommates who were loud, unclean, or suffered from cognitive decline, making restful sleep nearly impossible. No matter how much I tried to make my space feel like home, it never truly was. Losing privacy is one thing, but losing dignity is another. When people enter your space unannounced, when you're spoken to like a patient instead of a person, when your daily routine is dictated by a schedule you didn't create, it changes you. You start to feel less like yourself and more like just another name on a list. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, Are you ready to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. The challenge of leaving a nursing home once you move in. When I first decided to move into a nursing home, I told myself it was temporary. I thought I'd give it a try, see how things went, and if I didn't like it, I could always go back home. But what I didn't realize was just how difficult it would be to leave once I was settled in. At first, it seemed simple. If the nursing home wasn't a good fit, I could just return to my house. But as the weeks turned into months, I started to understand the hidden barriers that made going back nearly impossible. For one, my home was no longer as accessible as it once was. Maintaining it from a distance became difficult, and my family had already started making changes. Selling furniture, cleaning out rooms, even discussing whether to rent or sell the house. When I mentioned the idea of moving back, their response was hesitant. "Are you sure? Wouldn't it be safer to stay? We just want what's best for you." Then there was the issue of my physical condition. When I moved in, I was still independent. I could cook, clean, and take care of myself. But over time, I found myself doing less. With meals prepared for me, chores taken care of, and assistance available at the push of a button, I became less active without even realizing it. My muscles weakened, my stamina declined, and before I knew it, the thought of living alone again felt overwhelming. The very place that was meant to provide care had in some ways made me more dependent. I met others in the same situation. People who thought they'd only stay for a short time, but found that leaving was much harder than they had imagined. Some had sold their homes, leaving them with no place to return to. Others had drained their savings on nursing home costs, making independent living financially unfeasible. That's the reality no one tells you. Moving into a nursing home feels like a decision you can reverse, but for most people, it isn't. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave. If you're considering this move, ask yourself, are you prepared for the possibility that once you go in, you may never be able to leave? Lessons and advice. Making an informed decision about nursing homes. Deciding whether to move into a nursing home is one of the most significant choices an older adult can make. While it may seem like a safe and convenient option, it is essential to consider all aspects before making such a life-changing decision. A nursing home is not the only choice, and for many, it may not be the best one. Before committing to a nursing home, it's crucial to explore alternative solutions that allow for assistance without sacrificing personal freedom. Home care services, senior community programs, and assisted living arrangements can provide support while still maintaining independence. Family members and close friends can also play a role in helping with daily needs, reducing the sense of isolation without requiring a full transition into a care facility. Adapting the home environment, such as installing safety features, hiring occasional caregivers, or joining local senior support networks, can make staying at home a viable option for longer. One of the most valuable lessons is that life, no matter how challenging, is worth preserving in its fullest form for as long as possible. The routines, choices, and freedoms that come with independent living are not just conveniences, they define who we are. Moving into a nursing home often means giving up these small but significant aspects of daily life. Once gone, they are difficult to regain. Before making a decision, ask yourself, is this truly the best option, or is it simply the easiest? Take time to weigh the benefits and consequences carefully. While some may genuinely need nursing home care, others may find that with the right support, they can continue living life on their own terms, keeping their independence, dignity, and sense of purpose intact for as long as possible. Cherishing independence and purpose in later life. Aging comes with challenges, but one of the most important lessons is that independence and purpose are worth holding on to for as long as possible. Life is not just about comfort. It is about maintaining the freedoms that define who we are. Small choices, deciding what to eat, when to rest, or how to spend the day, may seem insignificant until they are no longer ours to make. As we grow older, it becomes essential to seek solutions that allow for support while preserving dignity. Relying on family, community resources, or home care services can help maintain a sense of control over daily life. The ability to contribute, whether through hobbies, social engagement, or simply caring for oneself, is what keeps the mind and body strong. When movement slows down, strength follows. When responsibilities disappear, so does purpose. Instead of accepting limitations too soon, embrace opportunities to stay active, connected, and engaged. The years ahead should not just be about extending life, but enriching it. Every moment of independence, no matter how small, is a step toward a more fulfilling and meaningful journey in later life.